Oh, finally, can you hear me now? Finally. Oh my God. Sorry about the previous stream. Um, I've just said a whole bunch of stuff that I know people didn't hear at all. Um, it's it's sort of the same sort of title as the other stream that no one sort of could hear anything I got to say. I was speaking on the Ebony K. Williams situation in regards to her speaking of like telling women it's time for women to uh, to prioritize getting the ring while in college or in uni. And I thought that was a brilliant way, thing she had she said. I think that she has a point. I think that everything she said is valid. I think that in regards to all of the stuff that she's been talking about. Prior to that, you had the situation with what's it called, bus driver gate, where she says she can't date a bus driver, um, where that kind of upset a lot of people, and you know this was a situation where she's kind of circling back and sort of saying, actually, based on my experience, based on her experience, being a highly successful black woman enough that, and she's like 40 years old, she um, the dating pool for her has become a lot smaller because based on her sort of experience, and I think that that was what she was talking about. I think that it's a brilliant idea of what she said. Okay, let me switch off this live and come back because I think that it's better to do it now that I know that the volume is now working. Or maybe I should just continue with it. Oh, audio is sounding nice now. Thank you so much, Jordan, man. Brother, you saved my. I had a whole bunch of things I was just talking. Felt like I was just talking to myself, yo. Anyway, I was speaking about, obviously, first of all, Ebony K. Williams and everything that she got to say, saying that women should prioritize getting a ring while while in uni, and saying that if you stay focused so much on getting an education and not focus, if marriage is what you need, if marriage is what you want, then you should try get um, linked up with someone while you're getting a degree. So the volume is good now. Nice one, man. Bruh, Jordan, you saved it. But anyway, but I was just saying that obviously she was speaking on that situation, and I thought that was great because family is the core of any community. Every community um, is made up of multiple families, and in this new age, we don't prioritize family anymore. It's marriage is not a wave. Having kids is not a wave in a nuclear family. But most people kind of like just focus on like, I can do it by myself. I don't need anyone. That whole kind of you know strong woman vibe that is going on. Um, I think that is very important now that to that she's saying that for the new generation of women that are coming, because what happens with a lot of women is like they're so focused on their success and their degrees that they leave it late to sort of getting themselves into a situation where they find somebody. By the time they get all their success that they want, they're already in their 40s or late 30s, and their standards is just insane. The level of standard that they have is insane, and the dating pool is a lot smaller. Hence, why the lady like Ebony K. Williams would be like, "I don't want to date a bus driver." When the great Ian Van Sant was telling her that you need to find the qualities of a man first, as opposed to what he does. That he might be a terrible person, but if he was a rich man sometimes, but instead of looking for the materialistic and what he does or what he has or what he doesn't have, you should find a man with integrity, um, dedication, focus, consistency. But obviously she wasn't trying to hear that. She was speaking from the perspective that she's a multimillionaire. She has a lot of money. She's made a lot of money. She's a very successful woman. So everything that she wants somebody on her level. The game never changed. The players just switch. I hear that, bro. I hear that, man. It just it's crazy, man. I just feel like it just needs to be some sort of like understanding in our situation in our life because in our lifetime because all of these women are saying they don't need a man, they don't need a man. When they get older, they feel that shit. Do you know what I mean? They feel that shit, and it doesn't look good. But it is what it is, man. And I also was speaking on Priya Sharma, the YouTuber girl, and her relationship or non-relationship with Ayamara. Obviously, I was just there was somebody in the comments that was having a conversation with me and sort of leaving comments saying that I shouldn't have gone hard on her like that. But I'm just saying, like in regards to, I know the guy gave you a career as a YouTuber. Obviously, he was stupid to do that because why would you? I mean, it wasn't stupid, but it was like YouTube changes lives. Do you know what I mean? So he basically just gave this girl a channel, told everyone to go follow her. She's now on 22 or 23,000 subscribers. She's earning money from it. There's some videos that are already on 500,000. Some of them on 200,000, and you know that those views account to real you know profits if you're going to look at it like that. But um, sure, the guy is a simp, and the guy is very focused on just trying to get laid. And I understand the girl, not wanting to be a part of that, and I rate her for that. But I don't think doing a video with his enemy is the way forward. I just think like that was a bit too much. That was low level, very very low level stuff, and I think she's better than that. She's a very classy woman, and I think that and I think that she's finding that herself, because there was a video on that guy's channel, Mara's enemy, Ivan. There was a video on his channel that kind of like showed how very uncomfortable she was, in terms of the guy just putting the camera in her face and all of that stuff. YouTubers are a different breed, man. Do you know what I mean? If you're gonna be a YouTuber, you have to you have to understand the game. People, attention is currency right now. The more views you have, the more money you have in your pocket. So people's livelihood is attached to this thing. Do you know what I mean? So I was just saying that it was just she could have just kept it classy without getting involved in all of that mess that he has going on. He could have just said, "Okay, I don't want to be your girlfriend, but I'm not going to do a video with your enemy either." And I think that would have been more classy. And she could have made a video with what the conversation with Mara is about, so we all can understand what it is. I have a high respect for classy women who set the standards very high for the rest of the women. Facts, man. You know, I think is with when you have standards, right? It takes discipline to have standards. Like, what I mean? Like, it's very there's no discipline at all for you to be low energy and just to be classless. There's no discipline that you like. Is the easiest thing to do to be classless. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? To be classless just means like it's very very easy. But to have class takes a lot of discipline, takes a lot of thought process, a lot of thinking, a lot of boundaries, and a lot of women don't have that these days. It's just let me just do, let me just get this kind of singular in the moment feeling off, which is a very human nature stuff to do. But at the same time, you have to look at the long term consequences of your actions. And and I think in the long term consequences of the actions of this girl, it's like all of her viewers came from Ayamara. All of her viewers, all of the subscribers. Obviously, she's added a few ones that she's made herself, but most of them are coming from Ayamara. So she has to understand that the moment you do something like that, it's like you're striking off a lot of your subscribers by doing that. So it takes discipline, man. I think she's a lot talented girl. She could have done without getting herself involved in all of that mess. But what am I to say? Just a person just observing what's going on. But anyway, let's shift gears a little bit. I was speaking on Africa at the moment when you came in, Jordan, and the other person also came in. I think they left or they come back or whatever. I was speaking on the African Revolution or the apparent African Revolution. I was saying, like, on one hand, I'm for it because the children of Africa deserve the best and they deserve to eat from the resources that God gave their countries. And there's been a few people that's been standing up against the Western powers to, take back what the the resources they have. And the rest of the other people are trying to plead their way into renegotiation, renegotiating the contracts they have with Western countries. From what we know, in say in Niger and in Burkina Faso and Chad, especially in Niger, France gets 95% of all of its uranium, its gold, or whatever it is they have there, and the country gets 5%. That's a highway robbery. That's like pimp and hose. Do you know what I mean? Like, so the guys, the military guys have taken over now and they've kicked France out. But then France and a few other of his allies, are because they've obviously there's been an assassination attempt on His Excellency Ibrahim Traore, the youngest African president at the present moment. Um, this is the second assassination attempt, and obviously people are trying to, get back, that position that France has over the country and in terms of the controlling of its resources. Those gentlemen that had the coup have stopped the transportation of uranium to France or to all of his allies, and they've set their own prices where other countries can come and buy the uranium, where they get 100% of it. Um, it's a great move, but I also know that with revolution, there's going to be bloodshed. With revolution, there's going to be deaths. With revolution, there's going to be instability. So in my head, I'm saying it's good for them to have for the African countries. Before Africa was on her face, now Africa is on its hand and knees. One day soon she'll stand on all 10 toes upright. She once stood. I hear you, bro. I hear you, man. I think you're making it a very, very valid point. This is exactly what my point is. An African revolution is on its way. But I'm also thinking about the deaths that it's gonna have to have because you have to look about you have the for so far the South African president and a few other presidents who are having a conversation with Western countries, and they kind of like pleading their way of trying to renegotiate this sort of contracts that's been there since the so-called independence. But what's happened is now it's like they they are afraid. Let me put it like that. Most African presidents are afraid because all of the presidents that have stood up from the 1960s and 1950s when there was the so-called independence of African states from the colonial powers, the people that stood up against the colonial powers then got killed. The people that stood up in the middle, like in the 80s or 90s, they got killed or get taken out, right? And now with these new young guys from Burkina Faso, from Mali, and from Niger and Chad as well, they don't give a fuck. They're like, no, we don't want you here anymore. And they have the support of its population that burning France's flag and all of that situation. But I know with that, there's going to be crazy consequences, As you can say, Ibrahim Traore, has, this is the second assassination attempt in the last 3 weeks. Do you know what I mean? And they're saying that is the Ivory Coast president who's very close to Macron, that was behind it. So it's like, on one hand, you're looking at yourself and you're like, oh no, you want Africa to stand up and have a revolution, but a revolution cannot happen without bloodshed. A revolution cannot happen without war. So Africa, there's war on the way. You know, before Africa, yeah, Muhammad Gaddafi. Exactly. You saw what happened to Muhammad Gaddafi. We saw what happened to him. They took him out. But what he was talking about was genius. He was speaking about a singular currency. Mama was speaking about having a singular currency. If Africa decides to have a singular currency, that's an economic uppercut to the West. Do you know what I'm saying? That's an economic uppercut to the West. Do you know? And that's why they had to take him out. That's why he had to go. And some of the African presidents that were scared for their own life, they a few of them are being accused of selling him out, because at first they agreed, but at the same times and you know how they used to trample these people, they do shit like this, like the Western, yo, they will send them pictures of their kids playing. Do you know what I mean? They will send them pictures of their kids playing. They will send a picture of them in the shower in their palace. This is how powerful the West is, man. You understand what I'm saying to you? So from that standpoint, they're like, what the fuck? That yes, yes, yes. We do anything you want. Yes, yes, yes. Slave master, yes. But these young guys from the Sahel, they're like, fuck that. Fuck that. They've already started building a refinery in Burkina Faso. They've already started setting the price of uranium already, where people can buy it directly for them instead of going to France. You know, they're about to dump the CFCA, the French currency that the francophone countries have, that is printed in France, that is for the French people. They're about to dump all of that with immediate effect. Do you know what I mean? And it's going to create war. On one hand, obviously, I want a revolution, but on the other hand, it's like the consequences of a revolution is huge. You know, so it's like, what are you going to do? You just have to, kind of understand what's going on. But African revolution is coming, whether we like it or not. Um, it's like the African people are already in hell. You know what I mean? So what are they going to do? Continue to be in hell or fight for your survival? Fight for the food for your generations to come. So if it's going to be war, let it be war. It's what's about to happen, and there's nothing anybody else can do about it. It's just what is going to have to happen. Do you know what I mean? Whether we like it or not. Um, because the smart thing that some of the older African presidents that are more diplomatic were trying to do were trying to renegotiate the contracts at which how the resources are controlled. But they're not trying. The West is not trying to control. The West is not trying to share nothing with Africa. They're not trying to renegotiate anything. They're not trying to. They're literally not trying to have any negotiation. They just want. They want it to remain the same way it is. Africa needs infrastructure. They already have the manpower. Uranium mining equals big tech booms. Facts on facts, bruv. That's facts on facts. You know what I mean? Um, it's gonna mean war, and it's gonna mean that people are gonna have to go out and fight, and so be it. Because I mean, if we have an Africa, if we have the West, if the West was more uh, partnership vibe, then that would be great. But they don't want that. Their way has always to conquer. Their way has always been slave master, master, slave master, slave. That's been the relationship the colonial powers have always had with Africa. So there's not going to be any of those things. They're not willing to pivot. They're not willing to change. This is why they hate the partnership with China. You know, so it's like it is going to be what it is, man. It's going to mean war, and people better get ready to fight. It's going to mean that, because, and I don't blame them for doing that, because it's not like the West wants to negotiate a part where it's a 50-50 on their resources. They want the continuation of the 95. They take 95% and you keep 5%. And Africans are saying that's not good enough, because you can't continue to take from us and they go build your own countries. You know, at least Russia and another country or China are doing some sort of partnership with Africa. There's some situation in South Africa where it's more 60-40, 60% to Africa, South Africans, and 40% to China. And I think, why not? That's even better than taking 95% of your resources and giving 5%. And then the government ministers share that 5% amongst themselves, and nothing gets to the people. No infrastructure is being built. No, as you said, Jordan, like, no, nothing is being built. No, and there are actually some countries in Africa. Do you know that they have a legislation with them? Like when the World Bank gives them a loan, they say, "Look, we're going to give you this loan, but this is what's going to happen. You can't build anything. You can't build any infrastructure that the resources you have can be created from." Do you understand what I'm saying? So you can have crude oil, but you can't build a refinery to refine those crude oil. I seen those contracts and I was like, what the fuck is this? So what they do is they take the crude oil, take it to Singapore or something, refine it and sell it back to the country. That's what they do in Nigeria. Because there's a legislation that told them that they can't build a refinery. They can't use anything for the lithium. They can't build anything from the lithium. They can't build anything from the gold. All we want to do is take it out. That's it. So what that does is it creates joblessness in that country. It creates no infrastructure. It creates no it creates no secular movement of money from the government to the people and around the people, because a lot of businesses can be built from the entrepreneurs of those countries, from the from the resources they have. So there's literally starved out Africa. And then they complain about the immigration process and people coming over, because you put those laws in there. That's why they're coming over. Because if it had been a 50-50 situation, you build your shit, we just take a bit of it, we pay for it, whatever. There will be no need for a lot of Africans being in Europe or being in Canada and in all those places, because their country will be so good that they'll build their infrastructure. But they don't want that. They don't want that. Partnership is not good enough for them. So now they're really hating on China coming into Africa, because in most situations, I'm not saying China is perfect, because Africa still has to make sure that they don't give away everything to those people as well, because we're going to end up in the same situation in the next 30 years if they allow China to just have the freely weedy relationship it has. We have to set the boundaries with this country. But from the point of view, China is bringing infrastructure, partnerships, and loans to Africa, which I see is a very good. Yes, yes, yes. You're right. They are better than the West by more than a mile in that. I give you that. I can accept that. But at the same time, I'm looking at the next 30 to 50 years. There has to be boundaries in those relationships. There has to be lines drawn. There has to be like, okay, you can have the resources here, 50% of it, but we own the land. Or like those kind of contracts that give us Africa long-term, you know, positives to us. You don't want to have a situation. And if you want to build companies here, don't bring your people from China. You train our people on our land to do what you need to do. Because what China is doing in some countries that they're bringing their own people down there, and it doesn't create jobs for the locals. That's problematic. But they're a lot better, a lot better than the West. And the interest rates on those loans make sense. The interest rates of World Bank to Africa, my God, I saw that, and I'm not even like a bank or nothing. Even I saw that, I'm thinking, what the fuck? Like, does that make any sense? How does that make any sense? You know? But that's what's happened now. But I think war is coming. War is coming. And I think Africans to brace himself. Hopefully, the war doesn't last for too long. But it's do or die now because if we're scared to have war, we remain in the same place. If we're scared to have war, you know what I mean? If we have war, at least we have a chance of a better future for the future generations. So I'm not a fan of wars. I don't like it. I don't like the look of it. I really don't watch war films. But what is Africans to do, man? What are they supposed to do? Continuation of the robbery and no, no, man. Africa has to stand up for itself, you know. But I used to think Gaddafi was a tyrant because I live in London, right? I live in the UK. So every media that we hear is like Gaddafi, bad, bad guy, bad, bad guy. And I remember one guy used to tell me, bro, you don't know the half of it. Until I met Libyans that were telling me that when Gaddafi was alive, they had a better life for a very long time in Libya than when they killed him. That's when you kind of start to think, yo, what I thought was a lie was actually the truth. What I thought was the truth was actually the lie. And we didn't exactly know that what Gaddafi was talking about because a lot of the media wasn't speaking about him asking African countries to have a singular currency. You had to go outside of the British media to find those videos where he was having a conversation about them. Because in the videos they cut and show us over here, it's a different narrative. Do you know what I mean? They were just it was a slander on Gaddafi. It was just like he's a tyrant, he's building weapons, like that kind of shit. You know, not knowing the real reason was because he just said, Africa needs to have a singular currency. And that singular currency is an economic uppercut. I'm telling you, but I don't know what's gonna happen, man. I don't know what's gonna happen, but everyone knows that, we don't want war, but war has to be the thing if Africa has to stand on its own. It just has to happen. Like, I'm very impressed by Ibrahim Traore, His Excellency, and some of the military guys in Mali and in Niger. They're doing every singular African is supporting them heavily right now. And but nobody wants war, but I think that's what's going to happen in Africa. And but Africa's got some friends now. It's not like before. Africa has friends in Russia. Africa has friends in Iran. Africa has friends in China. So we're not alone. We got backup, But you know, some same propaganda I heard originally was negative on Gaddafi. Yeah, 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 yeah. I did too for a very long time until I started to speak to Libyans, and it was like, I was like, holy shit, I've been in the dark all this while, bro. Do you know what I mean? Because all we hear from they never, all the things I read about Gaddafi in the UK never spoke about him saying that Africa needs a singular currency. He really signed his death certificate by saying that. If I'm going to be honest with he really signed the death certificate for saying that. Um, but Africans now have a great respect for him. They speak of him very highly. But yeah, I never saw anything here that actually spoke about what he was talking about. They just talk about him as a tyrant, and then we find out that he wasn't a tyrant at all. He was just a very smart man, and saw, you know, what was important for Africans to have Africa to grow. 30 years or 35 years before that, I'm not even 30, about 40 years before that, there was a gentleman by the name of Kwame Nkrumah who talked about this as well. the Pan Africanism, and he saw the vision, but they took him out as well. They even used his own people to take him out. Patrice Lubamba, the Congolese um, president or prime minister at the time, they killed him off as well because he stood up to Belgian and Americans in terms of the looting of his country. So yeah, man, it's peak times, man. We're in very, very unconventional times. You know, the media has us thinking that Ukraine is winning the war, but actually Russia is kicking ass, from what I'm hearing. Um, a lot of things have been destabilized now. The West doesn't look as strong as it used to do. There's also this thing called the BRICS that has happened, and that is happening. And the dollar is about to fall. The petrodollar is about to fall because the countries that have joined BRICS, I think, represent 60 to 70% of the world uh, petroleum output. Like so. What I mean? It's like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's not going to be overnight, but it's going to be what it is. But let's see what happens. What else do I want to speak on? I think I've pretty covered everything. I've covered Ebony K. Williams. Her saying that you know women should be more focused on, if a woman wants a marriage, she should try to get a ring while she's getting a degree. I agree with that. Priya Sharma, I think that it was a low blow that she, tried to. She basically did a video or collaboration with Mara's enemy, the guy that gave you life on YouTube. You know what I mean? Even though you don't agree with him, you could have kept it classy by not doing that video with Ivan. Because Ivan, I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan of Mara. I'm not necessarily a fan of Ivan. I just saw just sort of the way things were done and kind of was very messy. I think it could have done better than sort of allowing herself to be engaged in that mess. I always seen her as a classy lady. I don't disrespect her. I just feel like that was very low energy. I think she could have done vlog by herself across Africa, and she would have done well because she's who she is, and I think she does have some sort of talent to get things done. But anyway, and obviously I've spoken about Africa, what's happening in Burkina Faso, and all the rest of it. And Ibrahim Traore experiencing his second assassination attempt, but the gods, the ancestors are in support of him. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's magical. I think that's incredible. Yeah, you know, uh, I hope that he stays alive and to build the infrastructure that his country needs, and be an inspiration for the rest of all African countries. I think that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, and I wanted to speak on Drake's album, but I don't know yet. I will have to listen to it. There's Doja Cat's album as well. I think the single is fire. I wanted to speak on that, but I've not done my research on that yet. But I'm going to be speaking about a few other things. But in the moment, obviously, this was a live that this is my second live, so I've been on for at least more than an hour now. Because no, generally I always want to do an hour, because the last video was about 30 minutes or 28 minutes. Like, shout out to Jordan, man, Jordan Hands. Yeah, it's you saved me from that. I was literally talking to myself the whole video. I know I have to delete that video now because this is just a redo of that video because there was literally no volume on that video. Yeah, man. Thanks for that, Jordan. Man, you saved me, bro. Bro, I was literally talking to myself for like a whole 30 minutes, and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" But shout out to you, man. So I'm gonna make this live very. I'm gonna do another one tomorrow as well. I know a few things, so I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna be going hard at it every day now because until I get better cameras and get better things. Uh, For all the people that are going to be watching this later on and stuff, if you want to show support, my Cash App is always one of the videos on there. Show support, and the rest of it. But I'm going to continue to, just drop it every, if not every day, every 2 days. I'm going out at it, putting the YouTube work in. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You know, I'm going full on now. You know what I mean? It's no more side things now. Do you know what I mean? I've seen a few things that has a few videos that I've done that caused the conversation. So I know that whatever it is I'm doing, it's worth having a conversation about. So why not build on top of that? You know, I saw my channel go from 2 followers to 28 now. Some people might say that's not big, but to me that is big. You know, and yeah, I didn't have to do anything crazy except for be myself. So I'm going to continue to build. I'm going to continue to get new cameras, new lighting, um, new software to build stuff. I still do videos on TikTok as well. My phone is kind of gone off at the moment. I don't know what the heck is going on, but yeah, man. We're going to continue to build. We're going to continue to build on top of what I already have. So let's see what happens, man. Thank you for showing me all the love for coming on here. Shout out to Jordan, man. You're king. Thank you for that, bro. Till next time. Probably catch you guys tomorrow if you watch this. Um, yeah, man. Tomorrow and then Sunday. I'll just keep dropping every day. See what I got and speak on anything. So yeah, peace and love to everyone. Shout out to you. Shout out to Jordan. Peace and love, man. Let's catch you guys tomorrow. Blessings. Yeah, man. Yeah.